Even in the standings, it's a BO1 and every game matters. If you're at the bottom table right now in the LCS, you really need to win every single game. Otherwise, you won't make playoffs.
Until there's no hope, we will keep fighting our way to playoffs.
Unicorns need a miracle to get to playoffs.
Unicorns of Lava stampeding over Joe.
I think we will make playoffs 100%. At the end of the day, we're still on the top and we'll get there. I'm not saying that they are bad. Of course they are not bad. We're just better. You really need to look good if you want to be a top team.
And Mini Trueback is looking to do it all alone!
Teams will be fighting for those spots, the last two. Second isn't going to make me happy. Like we all want to win here, and we can't afford to drop sloppy losses here and there. I am what HK needs to make it to playoffs.
What a play from HUK! An outplay, can he jump onto Ruin as well? The Cannabouage, the jump, the Odo, get done!
It's not okay for us to drop any more games from now on.
There's so much pressure to reach playoffs, because if you don't, then there's basically nothing.
Every match right now matters a lot. We need to really win every single game. We never had it this close.
It's week 5 and it's time to stop f***ing around.
And for the first time in history, the fourth consecutive EU LCS title, G2 Esports.
This is the underdogs in this game. No one expected anything from them this hard.
Let's make this a clean one.
Welcome to Berlin, Germany for week 6 of the EU LCS Spring Split. We've got some crucial matchups ahead of us as the teams look to strengthen their position in the race for playoffs. Hello everyone, I'm Eva Schoks de Poorter, starting off the week with Martin de Fiscio Lunge.
Just finished cooking the famous
saw.
sausage. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually done live. It was definitely
You
not
just changed to
Yeah, I
come
just
to
changed
show.
around real quickly. That's what I do. I'm very fast.
So dedicated.
go.
Well, the teams are also dedicated because it is a close fight at the top going into week 6 with G2 Esports, Fnatic and Vitality all tied in first place.
And I gotta say, I'm happy to see G2 and Fnatic back, tied for first place. They belong at the top of the standings. Of course, they play each other tomorrow. Makes it even more hype. Middle of the table, Shucks. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
I don't even know who's beating who anymore. I feel like Splyce can beat
Everyone.
Misfits and then Rocket can beat Schalke and I can just switch around for next week. So I have no clue who's actually making playoffs at the moment.
Well, it is made more complicated by the fact that our #1 team, Vitality, dropped
that's
2
not good.
games last week, so that got messed up. However, they're still in the top of the table.
Yeah.
They're probably going to make it, but between those other teams, it is a very close fight. I have no idea who's going to make it.
No, and I'm kind of scared for Schalke. 0-2 again.
Why are you scared?
I mean, with this football organization, you expect them to make playoffs, and now they're playing some very important games this week. If they lose again, they might be out of the race.
Yeah, we'll see. What makes this even more interesting is that Unicorns in Love and H2K also picked up wins. H2K picked up 2 wins. The Unicorns finally picked up another win, so they're back in the race.
They look just as good as the middle of the table teams, which really means everyone truly beats everyone, especially H2K actually impressed me. I love the Shook effect. It's 100% working for them, and seeing them kind of bounce back after such a rough start, it is very good to see.
I love the Shook effect. I love best of ones, and the race for playoffs is closer than ever. And you are going to give your predictions about who you think is going to make the playoffs tonight in PGL.
My predictions are kind of boring. For now.
You have to make people
The
watch.
other guys have insane predictions. I picked all the biggest names. I mean, these 6 are probably going to get
So
it.
they can get into a discussion with you, and that's what we want to see.
100%.
All right, cool. Well, the race for playoffs is on, and the quarterfinals will be played on Friday and Saturdays from this studio. And then for Copenhagen, the tickets are now out. Visit eu.lolesports.com for more info. There's also a video if you haven't seen it yet. Martin's cooking things. It's amazing.
cooking big things. It's it's a little bit over the top, but that's how you cook the Danish hot dog.
Yeah, and you've been cooking up a bit more the fish show because you looked at some key players that can secure the wins for their teams this week. Starting with G2's Perks, that man in the mid lane is the guy you are looking at.
Yes, I have to start with Perks. He is currently my MVP candidate, the best performing player in the EU LCS, and he's just performing every single week. And that's why G2 Esports, they're on this 6-game win streak. He has impact in the early game, the mid game, the late game, and that just means they can always rely on Perks, which is so key for G2 Esports. And this week is really important for him and the team because Perks goes up against Caps tomorrow, and of course Fnatic, they're fighting for first place. Could be a potential preview of a final here in the EU LCS, so I'm very, very excited for that specific matchup. Next player though, it's gonna be Maxlaw. This is the captain of Misfits. Still trying to kind of find his ways in this split. We have seen some tank play from him, we've seen some Rengar plays. I really just want to see Maxlaw find one style and stick to it because we've really seen our Misfits rely a lot on his early game presence and then later on his shot calling. So Maxlaw needs to perform at the highest level because then we also know he can be the best jungler in Europe, and I want to see that this week because he's going to face off against the third guy. It is God Gilius himself. Big rivalry, of course, and this is the most vocal player in the EU LCS. There's the trash talk, there's the confidence, and I don't want him to change. I want to keep seeing that style from Gilius. I just also want to see more of him and Dizuke together. That is the strongest combo Vitality he can bring, and I want to see the early game be more impactful from Gilius specifically. That's what I'm really focusing on for this specific week because they need to bounce back. 0-2 week, they are still tied for first place, and I'm sure they want to grab that first place for themselves.
Definitely so. That race is on, and a very important game in that race is also our match of the week tomorrow. But first, we have 5 good ones today as well. I'm especially looking at the last game of the day. They're all important for playoffs, but Schalke versus Misfits is directly a very big rivalry for me.
Two teams that for sure expected to make playoffs when they entered the spring split. Two teams who are at risk of not making it right now because the teams beneath them are winning games. And these two guys, they can't afford to lose more.
No, they can't. And two of our first place teams, Fnatic and G2, are facing off tomorrow, as said, in our match of the week. G2 is going into the week on a 6-game winning streak. Fnatic have won 5 in a row. Well, they are tied for first place, and tomorrow could very well impact that first place depending on what happens today. And the matchups across the board are very good. I can see Perks versus Reckless highlighted here.
Yeah.
Obviously, we heard from the man himself in the Euphoria podcast.
We did. He was very outspoken about how he's going to beat G2 Esports, so I want to see that. The last time they played each other, it was kind of the clash of trash. Now truly can be the clash of kings because they're actually playing at the very best.
Yeah, that it can. I'm very excited to see all the matchups across the board, and we'll see, or we'll talk rather more about the matchup tomorrow and in tonight's edition of the EU LCS post-game lobby. But for now, let's look ahead towards our first game between the Unicorns of Love and Splyce. The Unicorns, they seem to be in dire straits after losing 4 games in a row, but they managed to pick up a win against Giants just last week, led by their mid laner Exile on Zoe. Well, they're still only 2-8, so they need to keep it going. They need to keep this Exile train on the rails, the
Oh yeah, you got to win every single game if you're the Unicorns of Love. And Exile, he is the man we're looking at because the team has kind of learned to play more around him in the early game, try and make sure he doesn't fall behind, and then later on in teamfights like we're seeing right now, he can go completely crazy, deals a ton of damage. Same thing for Samex, we got to give him some credit here as well, but really Exile is the guy we're looking at. I think he's personally a bit underrated right now because he's actually showing up in teamfights.
Well, last week was his best week yet, so we definitely want to see that going, and we also want to see what he will do versus Niski today in this matchup versus Splyce. Splyce also in the race for playoffs, and I think I also have some question marks with their mid laner. For me, Niski, he's taken a lot of resources, but he seems to be passive. He's not doing as much as maybe he could with that, with those resources.
Yeah, he's taking it slow, I feel like. He's still really getting used to Splyce and the EULCS stage where there's a lot of competition in the mid lane, so he gets the farm, he becomes a carry, but he's not the guy who kind of takes over in team fights. They still rely a lot on copy there. And another thing we also have to highlight is not just Niski, especially if we look at the early game. Xerxes and Odo Amne, top lane and jungle. Early on, there's no synergy right now. It's too passive. Odo Amne gets camped. These things need to be fixed for Splyce if they want to be one of the best teams in Europe.
Yeah, we need to see that top side of the map, getting it together a little bit more, because as I said, Splyce is at 5-5, and they now really also need to win to break into that possibly top 3.
But I feel like 5-5 for a new team is not too bad.
Nope.
You know, it's still middle of the table here. They can easily climb towards a top 3 spot.
Right. Kobe said if Unicorns of Love want to make it to the playoffs, it's going to need a miracle. Is it a miracle if the Unicorns beat Splyce today?
Splyce, they're not that good that it's a miracle if Unicorns win. I think Unicorns are playing better and better, but I still believe in Splyce. I think they're going to take it. I actually think they might take a 2-0 week.
All right, we'll see what happens. It's time to kick off week 6 here in the Spring Split. So let's head over to our casters for game 1.
Thank you very much, Shocks. Greetings, all you esports followers the world over. I'm, of course, Devin Pyrotechnics Young here with Andrew Avedius Day. How are you doing, my friend?
I am so ready, Pyro. We have 4 weeks, 8 games, 10 teams, and only 6 playoff spots. The race begins today, and these teams are eager to get on the board.
Absolutely. We're eager to get into the game. So here are the lineups for the stage. Splyce on the blue side for this game today. And there is one guy you have got to talk about, the main carry, the AD carry. It is Kobbe.
How can you not talk about this guy? When you look at Splyce, you're always looking down the bottom lane. So consistent in terms of his performance, his damage output, his laning numbers, everything seems to be going so well for the Dane down in the bottom half of the map for Splyce. And last week, he had one great performance, one not so great performance, and I feel like that's just tied to a bit of the inconsistency that we are seeing from Splyce.
We are definitely seeing inconsistency on that side, but of course, on the other side of the board, the Unicorns of Love, they're finally starting to find their footing. That crucial win over Giants last week. They're looking to pick up number 2 here today. Who are you looking at right now if you're looking at this team, Vedius?
I'm looking at the mid-jungle duo of Cold and Exile. It feels like their strategy right now is just sit in the middle lane, send those ganks that way, get Exile farmed up and ready to be the big carry in the late game fights, because this guy seems to be stepping up compared to what we saw in previous weeks. You give him a comfort champion, and when he's set up to succeed, he's really able to do a lot of work on it. In the past, we used to think of champions like the Vladimir, the Ryze, and recently, we've been seeing things like the Zoe come out for this guy, and we're still on 8.3, only small nerfs have hit Zoe, so I feel like it's a champion that you really have to respect if you want to give it over towards Exile.
Yeah, Exile always loving to play those assassin champions, even way back in the day, and he's definitely had his ups and downs here in the ULCS, but give him some love. You've had Cold sitting in his lane, helping set him up. That's the kind of thing that can really punish a team like Splyce, where you have their mid laner Niski kind of backing off a little bit. We'll see how it goes. We enter picks and bans.
And as we do, we have an opportunity to look back at the last time that these two teams played, because it was one hell of a game, Pyre. It was our longest game of the regular season.
68 minutes.
Back and forth. We ended on a base race to determine who would end up winning, and this was just some insane clutch decision making.
It was incredible, and it was just a hair's breadth away from one team or the other taking it. At the end of the day, Splyce were the ones that managed to get the victory, but once again, they had to come back from being far down in the game, had to come back into it, and this is what got Splyce that moniker of the Comeback Kings, making plays when they were down in gold, and here's how it ended.
Exactly that. The late game team fights, the late game decision making is what Splyce were often praised for. Last week, we saw a little bit more of an early game prowess, but this was some of the issues also plaguing with the Unicorns of Love. They're a team that always just seem to be missing that ability to net themselves the wins a lot during the regular season, even though they look good. And they came so close in this base race to securing a win. I'm hoping that both these teams have evolved since then, and we shouldn't have another 6 to 8 minute game on our hands, Pyro.
Oh, we probably don't, especially considering how fast games have been getting on 8.3. But let's zero in on the picks and bans so far. There is that Zoe. You talked about respecting it. The Vladimir was also removed by Splyce, so clearly they have been doing their homework. Meanwhile, on the Unicorn side, they've not only banned out the Skarner, but the Camille, something that Odoamne was tearing it up with last week.
A lot of respect bans coming out from either side. Skarner definitely directed towards Xerxes. The Caitlyn towards Kobbe. Let's not forget that it is one of his most played champions during the regular season. You would imagine that Splyce are looking to early rotate the Ryze, take that away from the Exile, but instead they're looking on put Odo on a bit of a carry in the top lane.
I like this from Splyce right now. We've been talking a lot about whether they put Odo on something a little tankier, give him the carry potential. We saw what he could do on the Camille, but this of course leaves up instant Ryze pickup for the Unicorns of Love. They're going all on the mid laner. So, locking in also an AD carry. Samux gets his hands on the Tristana.
Two very strong picks in the current meta. Tristana, considered by many AD carries a little overpowered right now, given you have good laning phase, you have plenty of wave clear, you scale extremely well, you have a lot of mobility. This champion right now has a bit of everything, so early locking it in makes a lot of sense for the Unicorns of Love. They are lacking a bit of engage right now, so I wouldn't be surprised to see something like an Alistair or maybe even the Zac come out from Cold in the first half of the draft as Splyce pick themselves up their jungle.
Yeah, so with a lot of the respect bans focusing on specific comfort champions of either player, either team, you get a lot more of these standard things left up and available, Xerxes on the Sejuani now. Splyce have a few more seconds to decide what they want to pick as they round out their first rotation.
Feel like they should try and grab themselves a middle laner. You don't want to have that champion pool narrowed, given that Unicorns will likely look to ban that lot away. And by picking up the Orianna, we can talk more about it when we get into the mid lane matchup, but we did see Nisqy bring out this Orianna last week, which was a very impressive performance.
He's been playing things that are slightly off the beaten path. We saw that one Twisted Fate game out of him already, but of course the Orianna always been a champion that's very serviceable, even if it's not at the top of the meta. You talked about the Alistar being a potential lock-in for Totoro. Well, we certainly got that. Now we enter phase 2 with the bans coming in. It's Tom Kench off the board.
I feel like you want to just ban away a lot of the other supports right now. If you're the Unicorns of Love, Braum would be another good one. Maybe even the Janna. You want to avoid those strong disengage tools that we do know Kasing has the ability to play. Something that he's shown a lot of comfort on are the range supports in the form of Zilean and the Janna as well. So taking one of those two off the board, I think, would make a lot of sense from the Unicorn side. Whereas if you're Splyce, right now, you want to try and limit the top lane pool. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something like a Gnar come out from the side of Splyce.
Yeah, already banned the Ore, and so let's see if they decide to ban that as well. Varus is what Unicorn selected to remove from Kabi, so they're trying to still focus on the bot lane as a whole. 16 more seconds till Splyce has to decide what they want to ban away, and we'll see if it is going to be the Gnar.
So I think the Varus ban was to try and take Kobe off of strong laning phase AD carries. Often we see him given the winning matchup, and with Caitlyn and Varus taken off the board, you now kind of fall lower down in terms of power picks, and you're looking at things like the Xayah, which again were also banned away from Splyce. So their pool is actually very limited right now in what they have available to draft themselves on the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, it could be troubling. That could be a chance for Unicorns to try and attack. Now, they get the first pick on this next rotation. We still need to see what they will take for their top and jungle as the timer ticks down.
If the Unicorns of Love, I wouldn't be surprised to see that jungler locked in, and as I say that, the instant Jarvan pickup for that of Cold, think it can do a very similar job to that of Zac, just a little bit more early game power in terms of his skirmishing. Combos very nicely with the Alistar as well, and I think that it makes sense. Unicorns now saving their pick, or their top lane pick rather, for the last draft to give him the counter engage. Splyce, looking at some of the AD carries available, yeah, they're kind of limited. You're looking at like an Ezreal or maybe a Sivir. Kalista's still up and available, but we know in Europe, a lot of teams not finding as much success as they would have liked with that champion.
No, so the Ezreal kind of falls to what Kabi wants to pick up, and now Kasing still hovering on his Zilean. We don't know if he's going to lock that one in, but he's been very, very comfortable on this champion, really bringing it back into the fold. They already have a little bit of tankiness, courtesy of the Sejuani, but do they want a little bit more of a backbone for the Splyce composition, you think?
I think I'd prefer something like the Janna here, but Braum also works. Disengage is what I'd really like to see, especially when you look at this Unicorns draft and you see, okay, they've got a lot of hard engage. They're going to be looking to utilize their mid-game spike with the Rise, with the 2 items on the Tristana. Jarvan and Alistar act as a great engage. Now you're just looking for probably another tank to just facilitate that. Something like a Cho'Gath could work pretty effectively, but instead, the Gnar also works as equally. We talked a little bit about it earlier as a potential ban, and Unicorns more than happy to pick that one up.
Yeah, double down on that engage. They get the chance to also, try to play the split push game and match the GP, at least until it gets to that late game crazy explodey barrel stage. And you mentioned it, we aren't going to be looking at one of those 68-minute matches.
Hopefully.
Hopefully not. We'll be a little tired after the end of this, but I feel like Splyce are going to be ready, locked and loaded. Late game, of course, has been their specialty. We saw a slight change of pace, but this kind of looks like another one of those late game team fighting comps.
You are correct, Pyra. Gangplank and the Orianna definitely have much more value in the later stages of play once they've completed about 2 to 3 items. The issue they have is Ezreal doesn't do the same thing. He's an AD carry that really spikes on 3 items, and he's popular in the meta right now because you draft Kleptomancy, you hit those 3 items before the enemy AD carry, and therefore you have a really strong spike. And so far in Europe, there have been very few teams that have been able to properly capitalize on that spike, aside from perhaps Misfits. So eyes are going to be on Kobe and the rest of Splyce as to how well they can utilize the 3-item spike that this Splyce composition has, and how well they can push it up against the Unicorns of Love, who themselves are more than happy to look for fights in the mid-game.
Unicorns certainly will be, but as you mentioned, all eyes, no matter what, pretty much have to be on Kabi and what he's going to do for the Splyce team, and who else will step up in the clutch for them, trying to make playoffs. You're sitting at 5-5, joining damn near half the teams in the European LCS at that score right now. The Unicorns, they're trying to climb out from that 2-8 record they find themselves in, but they have some momentum. They took a win, trying to make it 2 here. Every single game matters as we get closer and closer to those playoffs, Vedius. We will find out who reigns supreme as we enter Summoner's Rift for the first time in Week 6.
I'm looking forward. The race has begun, Para. As mentioned earlier, only 4 weeks of the regular season left. All these teams fighting for spots. UOL right now at the bottom of the table, but still within reach of that playoff spot. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if they can do it, or if Splyce will be able to close the gap between them and some of the top teams.
And nobody's out of it just yet. Splyce looking for some trickery here. Totoro steps a little too far forward. That Mukau might get turned into burgers.
Samek's blowing his nose. This is a prime opportunity to attack. But they won't capitalize on it.
Little advantages, little things. Got to be able to make that all happen. So before we can look too far forward, though, into the future for those playoffs videos, we got to talk about what happened the last time. We already looked at how that game ended, but man, the whole story of it, that was just the base race. It was a long knockdown, drag-out game, and it just kept going and going and going for a long time, and you can see Splyce, they nearly made the comeback multiple times.
But this was the thing. So for Unicorns of Love, they actually had a very similar composition to what they have now, where Exile was really tearing it up on the rise. They had a really good mid-game spike. They were able to capitalize on it very effectively, but then they just struggled to close out games. In the current meta, though, games have been getting faster. Teams seem to be finding better ways of closing out with early leads. And I feel like that's going to be very exciting to see if Unicorns can take advantage of that, given the growth that they've made over the last few weeks.
And the Unicorns have a lot of history in making this happen. They don't always start out so hot, but this is a team, you can see it right here. They always manage to make the playoffs. Sometimes they just squeeze in by the skin of their teeth, but this is a team where magic can happen. We'll see if Sheepy can cook a little bit more up for his squad. A lot of new players on this lineup, and yeah, 2-8 maybe doesn't look like the most impressive scoreline, but as we mentioned, they're growing.
Yeah, and Sheepy even said himself very early on in the split that he doesn't have huge expectations for this roster this early on. He could definitely see this being like a summer split project where in the long term, this team has a lot of future potential, but the fact that they're already making great strides halfway through the split is definitely something that the Unicorns of Love fans can get excited about. I'm certainly excited, but now we aren't really into the thick of things. We do see junglers already reaching that level 3 mark, and Cold is looking for a bit of an invade.
Yeah, see if he can find it. Double buffs on either side. Flag and drags over, look for Xerxes. Cold is really taking the fight to his opposite number here. He's got to be careful, though, if he's going deeper and deeper into enemy territory. Exile looking to come to back him up. Cold might just be able to steal away some of this jungle farm, put Xerxes further and further behind. Here we go. Forces out the Arctic Assault, and they just keep going. Exile is going deep for this one right now.
Now, Cold using the lane pressure very effectively to try and steal away some of the camps and put a bit of deep vision down. Unfortunately for him, he doesn't feel confident enough to stick around because Exile has to go back to mid and catch that minion wave. He has to be careful of the Orianna damage a little early on, but gives us an opportunity to talk a little bit more about this 1v1 matchup in the mid. Maybe we don't, because Cold continuing on with the invades.
1v1 matchup in the jungle right now. Cold goes in. Xerxes is able to dodge a little bit, get some permafrost on, and Cold, well, he cools off for just a second.
Niski very much wants to move and help out his jungler. Exile needs to be careful because he's losing a lot of experience by roaming around a lot. Still only level 3, and Niski feeling confident to just walk up and go for these trades. And you'll notice every time Niski gets an extra point in his W, he's going to be willing to trade more aggressively with his opposition. Speaking of trading aggressively,
everywhere looks like right now. We got it in the mid lane, we got it in the jungle, we got it down bottom. Samek's and Totoro really wanted to go toe-to-toe with Kabi Kasing. Exile now once again still forced out, still forced down, a little bit of damage on him, but he is keeping up in the farm game best he can. I feel like we're going to not have one of those late games for sure. Totoro goes in, tries to stop the back of Kabi, gets the stun off Unbreakable from Kasing, and we are into the thick of it early in this game. It's a lot of Totoro. Oh, he's going low. He's flashing away. Exhaust on. Samek's body blocking for his support. Gets the hop away, so that's a flash burned and a heal on the side of the Unicorns.
Ooh, bit of an overeager trade there from Totoro. This is one of the great things about Braum. Every time you try to engage upon him, he's really good at going for the re-engage because of how much sticking power he has with the initial Q slow and then the follow-up passive stun that it becomes very easy for an AD carry to set up. Good trade there from Splyce, will relieve some of the pressure, and now they can go back and get a good base timing, pick up that early tier that Kobby would very much like to get himself.
All right, well, we set the stakes for this one, how Splyce, we're going to look to fight it out in the late stages of the game. Unicorns could certainly punish in the mid. They're not even waiting for that, Vedius. We're 5 minutes in. We've already had multiple attempts across the board. It has meant, though, that Splyce, well, they haven't given up any kills so far. They've gotten ahead on the gold game. A lot of that thanks to the kleptomancy that both Ottawamne and Kabi are packing. We'll check in with this top lane, too, because we're not quite on the level 6 mark yet, but Odo has actually pushed quite far up.
Yeah, this is also a little surprising, because it's fine for the wave to be pushing back towards White Knight, but he's 4 CS down against the Gangplank. Normally, the Gnar should be exerting a huge amount of pressure and should have a CS advantage over someone like a Gangplank who traditionally has a very weak laning phase. But what's happening is Ottawamne seems to be willing to play aggressively, or White Knight not playing as aggressively as he would typically want to, and it's resulting in Odo getting a pretty healthy CS advantage. And given that the Gangplank will be running Kleptomancy, this is going to give a pretty significant gold lead over to the side of Splyce.
Yeah. Might need to see a little bit more action there. Now, Exile, he's going to step forward, but Xerxes steps right on top and forces the flash. Shockwave pulling it back. That's first blood. Over to Xerxes, and the fight's not over yet. They've looked for Cold. As Ottawamne is joining the fray here, Cold's already spent his flag and dragon. His 4 members of Splyce on top. He has to flash away. Splyce aren't messing around this game.
Great early gank there from Xerxes in the middle lane. Exile was hanging towards the top side, but he had no vision on that part of the map. Resulted in Xerxes getting to the middle lane first, and now Samix is trouble in the 1v1.
Don't see a lot of 1v1s with the 80 carries. Samix having to hop away, but Totoro is already coming on in. We might see Kabi burning that flash. He gets the heal off early on. There goes the flash, the knock back, the knock up. Let's see if they can turn it around. No support to be found, and Kabi's going to fall. Samix picks up a kill.
Big misplay there from Kobe, and Samix successfully punishes. Unicorns get themselves back on the board with a return kill, and Cold, the action doesn't stop with him.
Now he tries to go in and get a little steal off on that red buff. Totoro at his side, but Xerxes is there alongside Kasing. Even Niski's coming to join in the jungle. The lanes are all but forgotten right here. The Realm Warp's coming in. Niski's found on Cold, but Exile comes and turns it around. Picks the kill off.
Action just keeps happening, Pyra. This is the kind of early game that Unicorns of Love are looking to take advantage of. Last week when we saw the Unicorns play against Giants, it was fights left, right, and center, invades all over the shop. It was an action-packed game, and Unicorns just seem to be playing this style of constant early skirmishing, where Unicorns are constantly the ones coming out on top.
Oh, you love to see it when you're watching the Unicorns of Love. This is a team that's had so many struggles. The fans, they haven't had as much to get excited for, but that's about to turn around. Exile, he gets in some trouble here, and that was the start of that kill.
Great flash shockwave there from Niski, punishing the flash after Exile to secure himself the kill. We now get a quick flip down to the bottom lane where we see the 1v1 of Kobe and Samix. Kobe goes hard for the 1v1, doesn't realize that Totoro can get back to the bottom lane much faster than his support can, and he ends up getting punished for it. That's why you say we don't see many 1v1s down the bottom lane, Pyra. It's because it's so easy for a support to randomly show up and ruin your day. Meanwhile, speaking of ruining days, Niski had already burnt his flash in the previous play, which made it very easy for the Unicorns of Love to collapse on him and get another kill. So that means that Exile is able to return the favor. He picks himself up a kill. And Tristana now, off to a pretty good start, already completed the BF sword against only a tier Ezreal. So this early game, even though the gold doesn't say it, is definitely going in favor of the Unicorns' blood.
Oh yeah, Kleptomancy is always a little bit on the deceptive side. Unicorns, they just love this style right now, and it harks back to a different breed of Unicorns. Back in the day, we used to call it Chaos style. Well, it seems like it's back for the Unicorns of Love right now. 2 kills to 1, not too far down in the gold game, and that Tristana starting to go far forward. Things have settled down for just a moment, but it might just be. You can look at items on the board as well. You pointed out to me, Ottawamne. A little bit of gold generation on his side. That's some bank plank action.
Yeah, so for those that may not be aware, we've seen a couple of support items picked up on the Gangplank in the past. He will be running the Ancient Coin, and I sat there and I thought about this. This seems kind of odd, but one of the main reasons as to why you do it is while you're just naturally farming in the lane, you'll notice coins just drop from the enemy minions that you kill, and you'll be able to pick them up to get a bit of extra mana, but also a bit of extra gold. It's a really great way to just keep sustain up and just increase that gold generation during the laning phase. You'll also see it on champions like Narcissus as well, to just help reach that much earlier Trinity Force and then better utilize your early power spike.
For early action, once more, Cold and Totoro trying to set up a bait brush for Xerxes. Pings are flying all over the map here. Cold's not done as he tries to make moves down towards the bottom side. White Knight chasing down Ottawamne. This is what we expect to see with the Gnar matchup. The Ares on. Dodges out the barrels as well.
Exactly that, Pirate. Much more of what we want to see. Good stuff there from White Knight, able to develop a little bit more of a CS advantage. will even force Odo back, but he does have the teleport. Now, the pressure will not stop from Cold. He has been invading non-stop this game, and now he's looking for a dive in mid. Still no flash on Niski.
Oh no, this could be all she wrote for the Orianna. Gets the shockwave off and get dunked. Exile picking up the kill at the end of the day, tanking off the tower as he goes. Totoro walking the long way around, I should say, as Xerxes shows up late.
Samix had already set up a push down in the bottom lane too, so he's not going to get punished from Splyce. And his role was simply to zone away Xerxes. I love this early gameplay from the Unicorns. We talked about it right before the game, how they love to invest in the middle lane, and Unicorns doing it once more, setting up Exile for success. Now the thing is, Cold here, let's see if we can see vision. He should be spotted out. I believe he is, so Niski knows this dive is coming, but there's not much he can do about it. Sejuani was hoping to help there, but he couldn't get there in time. Totoro was in the way, and allows Unicorns to get a very easy kill down onto the Orianna and shut down what should be her strong laning phase. That was why she was picked into the Rise. How you can bully him out, how you can put a lot of pressure down, and you have decent gank setup with the amount of CC that you have. But instead, it is Unicorns of Love that are putting all that gank pressure down onto the mid lane champion that Niski's trying to run.
This was the pattern of attack that we expected from the Unicorns of Love. Try to put Exile ahead, which by necessity means putting Niski behind. And he's getting so many resources, generally speaking, from this Splyce team, but he's not really making a whole lot of them work. He's going for a champion that has a safe laning phase and a wombo combo in the late game, but now 2 kills down. Splyce is a team, you know, it seems like a lot of teams kind of have their playbook when they're dealing with these guys. Everybody knows that Kabe is going to do well. Everyone knows that he's going to be the big carry. But we're still kind of trying to answer the question, who is going to be Splyce's other carry?
Well, last week we thought it might be Odo.
Well, he had one game.
He had a great Camille game. Everyone was like, Odo's back. This is the H2K Odo Amno that we knew about. This was the guy that made it to the semifinals at Worlds, was dumpstering top laners left, right, and center. Finally, it's great to see him perform. And then the next day he goes on Cho'Gath and he dies 1v1 to a Soaz. So he definitely seems a little inconsistent. His Desper game are pretty high. And then for Niski, he's this player that gets all these resources, he gets all this investment, he does a great job of not dying. But then, you look at his kill participation, 10th out of mid laners in the EU LCS. You look at his damage per minute, 7th out of mid laners in the European LCS. This guy has all this stuff funneled into him, and he never translates it into anything. And really, it's only Kobe that's stepping up from being the big carry for his team. So that's why our eyes are so closely looking at these two individuals as to who will step up and be the other person that Kobe can rely on when he's not having the best of games.
Now, we did see earlier in this game that Odoamne was not a little gun-shy trying to go in and make some plays. We even saw him help chase down Cold and Exile in that mid earlier on. He's got his Trinity Force already. All that extra gold income he's getting is certainly paying off.
Yeah, very
no
early
just yet. Yeah, 13 minutes, not too shabby. Exile left alone in this mid trying to push it in as Niski fearing another dive.
Exactly that, Pyro. He's too afraid to go near the turret because he's like, there's an Alistar and there's a Jarvan literally right next to me. I have no vision over the bot side of my map. Just look at all these wards from the Unicorns. Absolutely insane control from the red side as they just invest so heavily into controlling Splyce's bot side jungle. They know White Knight has pressure up top. They can leave him to his own devices, and their eyes are set on getting this early mid tower and trying to allow Exile to start bringing his pressure to the rest of the map.
Yeah, the aggressiveness of Exile doesn't change from day to day, but the Unicorns have certainly learned how to harness it now. Xerxes, Kasing, roaming his 2, trying to clear vision outside of the jungle. There's still plenty of wards to get out of there, and the Unicorns have really put Splyce on the back foot here, even with the Kleptomancy on both sides. The gold is bang on even at 14 minutes into this game, and Samix chunking away at the tower, nearly going to find it. And all the craziness we've had, we haven't actually had a tower fall just yet.
Not yet, but they are very close to Unicorns, setting themselves up nicely to secure their first tower of the game. Pressure still coming out from Exile, but notice the Sejuani hanging off on the side.
All right, Shockwave gonna pull back Exile, and the Glacial Prison is on. Oh dear, Exile having to flash away, trying to get the Realm Warp out in the nick of time. He's able to pull the escape, but the Gangplank comes out as well. Let's see if he can walk it out as Samix is finishing the job on the tower. He will finally knock it down. Exile makes his great escape. Unicorns of Love don't lose a man.
Fantastic play there from Exile, able to avoid death with good use of the Rune Prison. The extended duration that you're able to get bought enough time for him to use the Realm Warp to escape to safety, and he didn't have to rely on the stopwatch to do it. Did have to lose his flash, but his team secured the first tower down in the bottom lane. And And everything seems to be going well in the early game for the Unicorns. Pirate, this feels to me like a revitalized Unicorns roster, a team that has a clear game plan that they are successfully playing towards.
They certainly do. Now, Splyce are no strangers to having to come back from deficits. We've seen that time and again from this team. But for the time being, Unicorns are looking great. Let's take a look at how Exile pulled the Houdini.
So the CC stacking great here from the side of Splyce. Exile unfortunately fought the side of Splyce. He didn't end up getting that second prop, because what happens is when you throw the ulti out, the passive applies, and then you can't reapply the passive of Sejuani the second time. So ideally you want to start applying hits first, then you set up the passive, and then you follow up with the ulti afterwards. But seeing as the shockwave had already landed, they wanted to try and set up the play as fast as possible. They just didn't have the damage. So he didn't end up dropping. Exile ends up getting away, and they walk away with an early tower.
Yeah. Also really close to knocking down that one in the mid lane, as Niski had just been forced so far out. Still pressure up towards top. White Knight's even able to take a roam and get some wards down. And while the replay was going on, too, Unicorns even secured the first dragon of the game, which was a crucial Infernal Drake.
Definitely a nice one to pick up for yourself. Their eyes are now set on this mid-tier 1. Dives are going to be a little bit harder for the Unicorns of Love to execute. Given that Kasing's going to be roaming around the map more. He is running that Glacial Augment for an extra bit of sticking power. Something that definitely we've seen a little bit more on supports recently. Whether or not I like it, yet to be decided. But we'll see how much value he gets out of it as the game progresses. Would love to see now Samex either move up towards the mid or top to help secure the next outer tower, because UOL want to keep this pressure going. They want to keep the snowball rolling after what has been a fantastic early lead for them.
Looks like you're going to get your wish, Betty. Is spotted by Splyce, of course, on that ward round the side, but whether or not they can do anything about it is another story. This Tristan is a real wrecking ball. Once she gets up to the tower, Totoro hanging around the side to see if Unicorns want to try and set up a collapse here. This has been such a proactive team, such an aggressive team this game. Splyce have clearly not known how to react, and in goes Totoro for the combo, and he's bringing Exile right behind him. Odoamne crucially using the cannon barrage to slow things down. Niski is going to get out of there, but not before the tower goes down.
UOL, though, they're more than happy with this trade because they get the flash out from Orianna and they secure the tier 1 in the middle lane. They may very well go for the Rift Herald now as well, but they don't need to force it. They're happy taking these overall objectives, and they're setting up very nicely for success. I love this Unicorns play. Very clear idea of what to do next, and they're not slowing down, they're not stagnating. They recognize we need to keep the pressure up against this Splyce lineup because we know how terrifying this Orianna and Gangplank can be in the later game.
Yeah, it's great to see from the Unicorns of Love. I mean, this is the team that is currently sitting at the bottom of the standings. Right now, so much parity in the European LCS that the bottom team and the mid-tier team, they're fighting it out, looking like equals. This is great growth from the Unicorns.
Yeah. I absolutely love to see it. Sheepy does it once more, but they've still got to close it. Remember, Pyra, that gold graph from earlier. Unicorns have done this before. They've had good leads. They've been able to get advantages over many other teams like Fnatic and Splyce, and then they've just failed to close. So now we're in the second half of the split. This is the second game of everyone's second half, I do believe. Can UOL successfully close out the game with the early lead that they've been able to build out? And again, want to illustrate, the gold looks very close because Splyce do have the double Kleptomancy. This Splyce roster is still very strong, so UOL can't be reckless with their lead. But let's see if they can now finally punish UOL down in the bottom lane.
All right, it looks like White Knight's going to have to burn his flash immediately, followed up. Oh, and there's a permafrost on, and that Gnar is just going down. Samex on the meanwhile up towards the top will knock down a tower, but they trade their top laner's life for the effort.
Now that was good CC stacking there from Xerxes. Notice how he applied the passive first, then he was able to proc it, then he followed up with the ulti again. Easy setup with the barrels from the side of Odoamne, and they're able to get themselves an easy kill, but objectives still going over in the favor of Unicorns, and that tower isn't dying quickly.
Well, you mentioned Unicorns having difficulty being able to close, and Splyce, a lot of opponents seem to have that same difficulty. We'll talk about that in a minute after this replay goes through, because White Knight, I don't think he thought that Xerxes was coming anytime soon.
Unfortunately for White Knight, he didn't have vision towards the bot side. Unicorns of Love throughout this game have pretty consistently been investing their vision towards their bottom lane rather than the bot side off the map. And White Knight really should have just shown a little bit more respect to the potential ganks, but overall, what it did mean was Unicorn said, jungler's bot, that means we can get Rift Herald and we can get top tier 1. And Rift Herald is so valuable at being able to take these tier 2 towers because there's some pretty challenging objectives to really break through, especially at this point in the game.
Yeah, so Unicorn's third tower for them, losing 0 of their own, even though they have given a few kills over to Splyce. But Splyce, once again, this is a team that knows how to fight it out from deficits. It's been so frequent that they've actually had to come back into games, especially compared to the rest of the league average. You look at this is all by patches for the rest of the league.
Yeah, so win percentages when they're behind. We don't have time to talk about that because there's a gank in the bot lane.
Yeah, 1v2, Odoamne, well, he won one of those earlier last week, but I don't know if he's going to be able to do it on this Gangplank, or maybe he can. Looking for Cold. That's a lot of damage. He's getting the shield on, and he goes golden. Is that going to buy enough time as Totro comes in? The Ice Bullet comes down. Oh no, it's an orange, and it's all okay as the cavalry's arrived. Kame picking up 1, and Totro going down for a second. Xerxes getting the kill, and Splyce have answered.
Odoamne does it again. He buys time for the rest of his team. He's able to get the outplay with the support of Xerxes, and he walks away a hero. 2 kills in the favor of Splyce as Unicorns have to walk away with their pants down.
That is the top 4 at Worlds. Odoamne we wanted to see, and we got to see it again.
So, look at this. 1 versus 2. He has the Trinity Force plus stacks completed, so he's a pretty beefy guy. Notice how he's positioning in the minion wave as well, making it difficult for Exile to land those skill shots. He gets a lot of damage down onto Cole, and then the Zhonya's, and just in time, Xerxes flashes in, throws the ulti, and Corby gives him the heal. Great support from the rest of his team to guarantee that their top laner can walk away with his life, and UOL are successfully punished for trying to set up a roam on the side lane.
Nicely played, and Splyce have managed to answer some of this crazy pressure that the Unicorns are bringing out. However, still controlling the map. UOL going to be able to fire themselves down a Cloud Drake here. Not a whole lot that Splyce can do about it with Samix able to fire away. This is that 2-item Tristani we're talking about. The mid-game power spike here for the Unicorns of Love is coming online.
So the thing is here for Splyce, I'm a little concerned only because the Ezreal is at 2 items when the Tristana is also at 2 items. Typically around this point in the game, Splyce do want to be at that 3-item spike, but the difference is Corby decided to go for the Trinity Force rather than the Iceborne Gauntlet. So I think this Ezreal is still in a good spot. The onus is just on Splyce right now to try and force some plays because this Tristana's only going to get stronger. And that's something that you have to be very, very scared of as the game progresses, because this Ezreal will not outscale the Trist, and there's only a very limited amount of time you can take advantage of.
Oh, Odoamne, can he do it once again? That Sterix Gauge coming in handy, and Exile knows he's bitten off more than he can chew, and he gets stopped before he can realm more bout. That doesn't work twice.
Xerxes down in the bottom lane, punishes Exile once again. He's not able to use his flash. He perhaps maybe could have flashed over the Xerxes ult, but it doesn't matter. UOL, they cannot gain anything off the back of this, and Splyce are successfully stalling out this game.
They're starting to find these answers. They've stopped the Rift Herald up towards the top as Niski on wave clear duty. Try and keep second tier 2 from falling. 23 minutes into this game is still starting to look very even. This is looking like one of those Splyce games. They certainly know this script inside and out.
UOL, they need to work together a little bit more. Like this play from Exile, I mean, it's just a lack of awareness, because look at the minimap. You can see that there is just not enough vision from the side of Unicorns for Exile to play this aggressively. He doesn't have the stopwatch anymore. You don't have the reliable Zhonya's play to get out of that kind of a situation, and in the past, he probably would have survived, but this time around he doesn't. He ends up getting successfully punished, and Splyce are just stalling this out. Gangplank is in a great spot. Orianna's now completed 2 items. I feel like this lineup from Splyce could win fights at this point in the game, and UOL, they can't afford to underestimate that, because Splyce are a team that, when you get into the mid and late game, do make smart decisions and cannot really afford to be underestimated.
Yeah, the relentless aggression from the Unicorns of Love, sometimes the downside of that, you get a little blind to what you can't afford to do. 3 items now on this Tristana with the rapid fire cannon completed. Samix will certainly be a powerhouse to contend with, but Splyce boys seem confident that they can fire back. Maybe not directly in the 5v5, but they still found at least one pick. Exile, this time, I think he's learned his lesson. Xerxes was coming in once more.
Yep.
Be backing out.
There we are. This is the respect you want to be seeing from Exile. This is not dead this time. Definitely a bright side. Couple of things coming down onto the Tristana. And now they're pinging around the Baron. Very little vision around this side of the map from Splyce. They actually have only one far sight orb on Niski, which currently is on cooldown, so they're going to kick this one off. It will be spotted out by the True Shot Barrage.
Yeah, clipped onto Cold too, so he was taking a lot of damage from that Baron, and not everyone was there. They have forced the teleport. Will they turn the fight, though? It gets canceled by Ottawamne. Probably a wise move there.
They know this. Look, a lot of pings coming down right now from Unicorns.
It's a lot of crits. Now Kavi's going to have to hop the wall. Totoro looking for him as well, and Excel's going to follow over, but he's inside of 3, and the rest of the team can't help him. Can he tank it out? Exhausted down, and Splyce, they've managed to get him, and Cold comes in a smidgen too late, has to hop out over his own Cataclysm. That's a double kill going the way of Kavi, and Splyce have turned another fight.
Exo, what are you doing, man? Why would you flash into 3 Splyce members? They literally just said, oh, hello, sir. I believe you are by yourself, and we will just obliterate you. Big misplay from the Unicorns mid laner. Splyce successfully punished, and they went out on another fight, Pyra.
I'm telling you, man, Exile, I think, has one button. It's go. So does Samix here, but this time it worked out fine for him. That wasn't the issue, as Samix kills Niski in the after.
Okay, Niski dead.
Not sure what happened there.
Get the last replay back up when there's a bit of a brief moment of respite. Not sure if we'll be able to get that in the current Unicorns game.
Yeah, we're definitely not getting a whole lot of downtime this time. Been a bloodbath. Ottawamne taking a few more shots, courtesy of Samix, who has no flash. Keep in mind, but yeah, Niski might have died, but Exiles was entirely preventable. We know that for certain. Let's see. Unicorn's trying to chase on. Ooh, Samix going very far forward. Looks for Kasing. He doesn't have an Unbreakable anymore. He doesn't have to stand behind me, but the Boomerang is going to finish the job, and Totoro's coming through. The pain train keeps on rolling here as Kabe is trying to stay alive, but he will be shut down courtesy of White Knight. Samix and the rest of Unicorns of Love making a beeline for the Baron. Xerxes sniffing around. I don't think they'll be able to stop this one short of a smite steal.
All right, this is definitely a bit of a fiesta, Pyra. There's fights back and forth, skirmishes all over the shop. The Baron has now started. Let's see who can secure it.
Double knockup, though. Totoro, he's found out Ottawamne. Exile has got his sights set on the Pirate, but Niski's turning it around, and Exile checking into 3 once again. Down he's going to go, but it was all a ruse because the Baron's taken by Unicorns. Can they get out alive, though? The answer is no if you're Cold, and maybe for Totoro as well. Talk about being perma-frosted. He's going to fall. That's a double kill courtesy of Niski.
I have no idea what's going on, Pyra.
I don't either. There's a 300 gold difference. There's 10 kills to 6. This is starting to look like my Silver 1 game.
Yeah. Oh, some shade being thrown from Pyra. As UOL, they do walk away with 2 members having the Baron, and Splyce will secure their first tower of the game. What a show, Pyra. What a show.
I mean, we haven't really been able to take any time to, like, actually analyze who's picking up these kills, how it's going down.
Right, let's have a look back at what happened.
Fight.
So, Samix sees support out of position. He goes in. This play is fine. They're pretty confident. They also have their support there to add as backup, and he's even able to zone Kobe away from the fight. And at this point, UOL, they're all good. They're happy. Rise even comes in from the flank, secures another kill. Going towards Baron, not a bad idea, right? Makes sense. Now this is where I think Exile may have overstayed his welcome a little bit. Just look at his positioning. He literally walks into melee range of Xerxes, and he says, stun me, please, stun me. I wish to die.
Yeah, even I know that when the cow stops moving, you should probably not go farther forward than
just stand behind the cow, not in front of him, Pyra, not in front. Anyway.
They got out with the Baron on a couple of members.
Yes, so I need to calm down. Let's bring it back.
All right, rewind.
2-5 right now for Exile. He has been involved in a lot of kills, and he's doing a lot of damage. That's the bright side. Totoro, though, he's going in again.
Now looking for Kasing and Kabi. Samix has hopped in as well. Exile brought the party with the Realm Warp, so now Unicorns Love are living inside of the Splyce jungle, taking away all the buffs that they can. Ottawamne setting up some barrel chains, looking for White Knight in mini Gnar form. Parlays him out, but it's just Unicorn sniffing around. There is a Mountain Dragon live on the map, and if they can make this, it'll be 3 for 3 on the game. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Down it goes.
Okay. A lot of back and forth, a lot of kills happening. UOL, their goal in the early game was to try and set up a snowball, right? They had strong mid, strong bot. I love the early invades from Cold. I think everything was going well. Exile has now made a few too many over-eager plays, and it has resulted in Splyce being able to find opportunities back into the game. Ezreal now at 3 items. Orianna in the same position. This team fighting of Splyce is not the weakest. The biggest issue that Splyce are going to be dealing with right now is this 4-item Tristana. the one consistency that we have seen from the Unicorns of Love is this bottom lane. Totoro has had many fantastic engages on the Alistar, and Samix has been cleaning up nicely. Level 16 on this AD carry right now to the 14 of Kobe, and I feel like he's becoming the big win condition to allow Unicorns to, even after a lot of blunders and a lot of big mistakes, make their way into the base of Splyce.
Yeah, they've got damage other places as well, but you're right about the consistency factor. Samix has been up there. Niski, he's able to pull Exile back, and Xerxes turns it around. True shot barrage coming in from Kavi. That's a flash out from Exile. Can't really do much more for the team here as the cow is stunned up and exhausted. Samix cold trying to find their way in, and this time Unicorns don't lose anybody trying to take down tower number 2 in top.
Now, Exile does have the Seraph's Embrace, decided not to use it. Not sure if that was because he had calculated how much damage the opposition does, or perhaps he felt like that there was no need for it, but maybe he wants to use it a little more preemptively next time so that he doesn't get that low. Wasn't his fault though, was definitely a great engage there from Splyce, capitalizing on a good shockwave from Niski. Unfortunately for them, they could not secure a kill. And Samix is just continuing to rotate through these different lanes and keep the waves pushed up. I wonder if Unicorns are now going to wait for the next Baron before they really try and make a play, or if they're going to try and force something a little bit earlier on.
That is some Baron power play.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the quietest we've seen this game so far. But as soon as we say it, Exile goes in to try and get the 1v1 onto Odo. Wamne there, shields on both sides of Seraph's Embrace. Getting popped there, but Odo takes the worst of the trade, turns things around as the tower falls for Splyce in the bottom side, thanks to the Winions.
Odo, to be fair, has been having a great game alongside Xerxes, and Niski, considering he got hard camped, he's doing surprisingly well.
Yeah. We asked the question earlier on who was going to be the secondary carry. I think Odo's certainly making a statement for himself on this game, but I also want to talk about somebody that has had a lot of quiet games for Splyce. Not this time, Xerxes, the jungler, 100% kill participation, and he's been stacking up kills very quietly. Some of them have been delivered to him on a silver platter.
That is true.
But he's still picking them up.
I feel like his awareness this game has been great. He's just always in the right place at the right time, successfully punishing any overextensions or over-eager plays. Has allowed him to be involved in a lot of these kills, and I think that a lot of fans that looked at this Xerxes jungler and thought this was the guy that had a lot of hype last year seems to be returning to form a little bit more. Unfortunately, due to the aggression from the Unicorns of Love, he couldn't really stop some of these early dives that were happening to allow them to get an early lead. But gold still in the favor of Splyce. You can see how up and down this game has been. Great way to start on our Week 6, Pyra.
Oh, that was a gold graph? I thought it was my heart rate. Yeah, this has been a nutball one for sure. So Splyce managing to come back and Unicorn still trying to pull it in there. I do think the Baron is going to be the next huge objective, which is why we're seeing the lowest amount of action we've seen all game at this 32.5-minute mark. But you've got the Gangplank now. He's got the Infinity Edge on top of all the other items he's been stacking up. The Phantom Dancer, like that's a huge thing for Splyce. So they're not just relying on the Ezreal. The Orianna damage is getting stronger. Unicorns can't heedlessly charge in anymore.
They cannot. But again, the one thing that they do have going for them is Samix. If we could have our observers flick over to the gold, we can just see how much. We don't have time.
Yeah, we're going to do that later. It's a 1v2. White Knight nowhere near that Mega Gnar bar, and he's already burned his flash away, trying to make his escape. But Odo Wamne pops him on the powder keg.
Yeah, we were just talking about gold, and you can see how much more that Gangplank now has, matching that of Samix. And now you asked who the second carry was. It's going to have to be Odo this game. He's had a fantastic Gangplank game so far. All of the gold is on him, and all of the gold is on Samix. Which of these two can come out on top?
Speaking of, Samix, he's trying, and let's see if he pushes Odo Wamne away. Exile coming in. Odo is isolated as he got Buster shotted back, and as long as Samix keeps his distance, you got to think he's going to be able to get the kill. But there's an orange. Odo trying to escape once again. Flag and drag, and he's put in prison and put in the grave. Exile getting revenge.
A little unfair there. 1 versus 3. Odo couldn't get his 1v1 against Samix. Will end up losing his life. And now the Baron's going to be spawning. TP is available, but that is a 48-second death timer. The Unicorns are more than happy to force a fight with as their top laner respawns in 2 seconds and is ready to TP into the fray.
Nothing is certain this game. Even in a 4v5, Splyce are not going to sit idly by and give this Baron away. Unicorns trying to hedge their bets here, picking up all the vision they can, and 3 members strong trying to take it out as Totoro guards the entrance to the jungle. It will not be contested here. True shot barrage, though, could come in at the last second. It's going to get smarted away by Cold.
Ooh. No Sean and Steele this week.
No, not this time.
Good smite there from Cold. Will secure the objective for UOL. Exactly what they were waiting for, and just very unfortunate timing for Splyce. Odo just overstaying a little bit too long down in the bottom lane. Successfully punished by the Unicorns of Love. Allows them to now move up towards this big objective. And let's see, will they now play towards the 1-3-1? Send Exile off onto one side lane, have White Knight in the other, and then just have your 3-man unit of Samix and Toto grouping up in the mid to set the push down.
Looks like something has kind of flipped in the minds of the Unicorns players. They've been controlling the chaos ever since pretty much getting caught off on a couple of those side lanes. So now let's see what they can do with this Baron buff. The Tristana, as you mentioned, is continuously getting stronger here, even as Totoro tanks a huge chunk of damage.
Oh, that's
Samix and Cold, easy peasy pickup of another Infernal Drake. That's 2 knocked down now for Unicorns.
On a 5-item Tristana. That's nuts. Oh man, Samix, absolutely terrifying right now. Level 18 to the 15 of combat. He has significantly outscaled, one would say.
Yeah.
But again, like, it's literally, this game is all about who can do more damage, Gangplank or Tristana. And funnily enough, it is easier for a Tristana to do damage, but only one shockwave into one big barrel could swing the entire game in Splyce's favor.
That's a wombo combo, right? And you got to watch Xerxes too, because he's big enough to be able to charge in, absorb some of that damage, and carry the ball all the way into a fight. But Unicorns, they're trying to play this out 1-3-1 style, or even 4-1 as they go 4 members strong down to the bot, looking for the damage. Totoro charging forward, gets the knock-up on to the Sejuani, rooted in Rune Prison. And from downtown, there's a Gangplank ultimate coming in, but Totoro and Exile, the ones taking the damage. The tower is not even going to fall as Niski gets 1 off the board. Totoro trying to buy time, but they take him out as well. Samix, White Knight, Cold on the retreat path.
I don't understand why Unicorns felt the need to force a fight there. They had such a huge minion wave, and that was going to be a very easy tower take, but instead they go for a dive that ends up backfiring horribly. Good job on Splyce to punish this overextension from the Unicorns and maybe be able to get something back on the map.
Dude, it's like the entire Unicorn squad have Lee syndrome right now. They want to take the objectives, but then they just see the fight and go.
Watch Samix. See how he will take tower aggro right now, and look at how much of his HP that he loses. He's forced to jump out because of the shockwave, and because his damage output isn't there, they can't stay in the fight. Jarvan isn't involved until very later on. White Knight isn't in the fight at all. And overall, the entire setup was just poor from the Unicorns. Splyce did a great job of successfully shutting down this engage and getting themselves a couple extra kills.
Yeah, and not to mention those 2 kills on the Orianna. You talked about a shockwave being crucial to those fights. Well, with that extra gold income, Nissy's going to be even more terrifying on that crucial spell ability. 37 minutes is now the game time on the clock. There's still 40 seconds left of Baron buff, but the Unicorns are not going to be able to utilize it quite as much as they'd have hoped. White Knight still pushing in the bottom side, and it looks like they're going to be going back to the split push strategy that seemed to be working until they overcommitted.
Really want to see a Void Staff on Exile. Surprised that he would go for a Death Cap before that. Perhaps a bit of a greedy itemization again, but we'll see how things work out for him. He is currently sitting on 6 deaths for the Unicorns of Love. Definitely going to affect his KDA just ever so slightly. And now that the Baron buff is wearing off, UOL might just have to wait longer. This could, unfortunately, be another 68-minute game.
Oh, don't say it. Don't say it. I'm getting flashbacks already. We're 37 and a half.
UOL are just failing to close out. We're seeing exactly the same issues that they had the last time these two teams met up. A lot of individual misplays. Very difficult to siege into the base of Splyce. Splyce actually have less wave clear than they did in the past. And Xerxes also having a great game, continuing on with his 100% kill participation. It only takes one mess up, which we've seen UOL be able to make, for Splyce to capitalize and then maybe secure a Baron and start taking control back over the map.
And I think that's the crucial difference between the last time these teams met and now, is that Xerxes really firing on all cylinders, fitting into this team. We talked about Unicorn's growth, but the mistakes are still there. The individual misplays, Exile thinking he can flash over into 3 members of Splyce. He's not the only one, though, for sure. And Splyce, I mean, there's a reason these guys have the longest average game time. They're always coming back. Let's see if they can keep it going now. Odoamne taking a lot of damage, eats that orange and goes real big thanks to the Sterix gauge. Samix and White Knight don't have the damage to polish
So
them off.
UOL basically said, okay, where's all of our gold? AD carry. Where's all their gold? Odoamne. Let's send AD carry versus Odoamne. And Samix, he does a great job of forcing Odo out of lane so effectively. Look, that's a flash gone now for the Gangplank. TP unavailable as well. UOL should feel pretty confident in trying to keep this pressure up at this point.
Yeah. Not a whole lot else for them to take on the map until that Elder Dragon is going to be hitting the Rift, but Unicorn's still keeping up a lot of vision, a lot of pressure. I've seen this before, though. Splyce pretty much confined to their own base, managed to find those comebacks so many times.
Yep. I mean, on paper, this should be really hard for Splyce. They have 0 dragons, Elder Drake going to be spawning that they have no vision control over, Baron going to be up in just under 2 minutes, which also they have no control over. Where all of their gold is so much harder to take fully advantage of when you don't have a consistent damage dealer like a Tristana. So teamfighting is going to be harder for Splyce. But again, it's all about that big shockwave into Gangplank combo. Can Xerxes land that crucial ulti onto the key target? There is no QSS on Samux. So Xerxes engage could be the thing that swings it, gets a quick shutdown. Yeah. Splyce are definitely not out of this game yet.
Yeah. No QSS means, of course, Samux may be playing with a little bit of fire there, but he hasn't died yet, and his Tristana has been monstrous this game. This is a guy last year, we talked about him as being one of those really high-tier AD carries, and that was back before the pool was nearly as stacked as it is now, and you got to give the man some credit. They set him up properly, Unicorns knowing how to utilize the big cannon they've got.
Samux definitely a strong performer last year. Taking him some time this split. Early on in the season, his team fighting was definitely lackluster, but that's definitely improved. Exile seems to still have a couple of mixed performances, definitely a couple of plays that he should not be making.
Avoidable deaths.
Yeah, avoidable deaths, I think, is the friendliest way of putting it. But now he's full build as well. Void Staff now finished. He has the full item over the Orianna. Very much what you would expect. And pings are coming down. Elder Drake and the Baron both spawn at a similar time. 7-second gap between the two. I don't know if UOL could rush one down and then make it in time to the other.
Well, they have so much damage though, but better believe Splyce is going to take the fight to him. And there are a few ways easier to get grouped up for a big shockwave than inside the pit.
Very true.
Baron's live, now. So is Dragon.
Sitting in darkness, but there is that one ward there.
All right, Unicorns of Love not pulling the trigger just yet, trying to find an angle. There are 4 or 5 members of Splyce sitting in the mid here. Meganar goes in for White Knight. Big minion wave down bottom, pushing in favor of Unicorns.
Yeah, and Splyce actually have mid priority right now. Here's the ult!
Okay, but the hop away, the buffer is exactly what Samux needed right now. True Shot Barrage comes and sinks him. He might be out of this fight. Cold and Exile trying to find some ingress here, but it's not going to happen as Totoro tanking up the line. But Samux has regrouped around the side, and that is a huge crit proc, making Splyce rethink this fight.
That was actually a phenomenal rocket jump from Samux. The fact that he sees the flash ult and is able to buffer it just in time to get to safety. Really good response time. It's almost like he was waiting for it to happen. But now Splyce, they have priority over the Elder.
They're the ones grouped up here. A lot of poke coming in, but no full commitment from Unicorns of Love. White Knight trying to get in as his Narbar builds up. And here is going to be Exile trying to bait around the side. Bing's White Knight and Cold over and trying to split up Splyce as they turn the fight to White Knight. Let's see if they can get it. Cole gets the dunk on, looking for Niski. That is a big Gnar, but he's going to melt there. Niski's already found him, but the rest of Splyce, they might be falling here. Kasing hanging tough for just a second. Shockwave, that's going to be huge. Imposing 2. Exile still hanging tough, and so is Samux. Does he have the damage to turn the fight around? Big shutdown. How many can he get? Exile's got 1. They're going to blow up 2. Another shutdown. Flexing forward for Kabi. Trying for the big outplay, but it's Unicorn standing tall.
Massive team fight for the Unicorns of Love. They finally win one out after Splyce tried so hard to secure the Elder Dragon. They fail, all 5 go down, and UOL have their eyes set on the first inhibitor of the game.
40 seconds on those death timers. It's only Cold and Exile, but that is all they need for now, and maybe they're going to pull it away here as they're going to go over towards the mid, just pushing minion waves.
Their eyes perhaps set on the Baron. TP is up for White Knight, but Samux will be dead for a while. I don't know how quickly they'll be able to take this. Teleport is available for Odo. This could be very risky for the Unicorns.
It certainly could be, but like I said, long death times. Let's take a look at that fight again as the Baron gets started up.
So this flank seems good from UOL, but Splyce just say engage on the flank. They then go on the White Knight and kill him so quickly, he's not really able to do anything in the fight. Kasing is soaking up a lot of the damage. Him dying first is fine, and then the big shockwave hit from Niski. You think the fight is over, but here comes Samux. Freely jumps onto Niski after already losing his flash. Kobe cannot match the damage, so he's not able to turn it around. And while he is able to kill Samux, it ends up costing his life. And while they tried so hard to kill Samux, Exile was freely dealing damage on the backline. The full build rise, cleaning up the end of the fight and allowing UOL to secure the Baron and the teamfight win.
So after all those misplays, Exile ends up being the hero for Unicorns of Love in that fight. But now we are back
to say the clean.
I mean, he got it at the end of the day. We're back to the Elder Dragon right now. Unicorns are Baron buffed up, but if they group up too hard, that shockwave on Niski could punish them. That's a lot of damage. Dragon already down to 6,500. Unicorns pulling off a little bit. Totoro sneaking around the side looking for a flank of his own. And Cold and White Knight trying to cut him off again. They found Niski and Xerxes, but instead of going on to him, they go on to the rest of the team instead. It looks like Splyce is split up. Samix is going to start it off with 1 kill. White Knight absorbing all of the damage, and Xerxes is going to fall. How many more seconds is it going to take? However, as it all goes around, Totoro keeping the rest of Splyce locked up. Exile turning back onto them. That's a lot of damage. Nobody wants to tangle with the Rise. White Knight backing away. Shut down, though. Exile goes down. Unicorns thought they had this one locked up. All in the books, but there's a teleport coming in from White Knight. The fight just doesn't end. The flank with the mini-Gnar. They take down Kami. They're going to clean house. It's only Kasing and Odo. The double kill for White Knight, and the base is next.
Unicorns of Love again with another fantastic fight. Splyce had to try and answer the Elder Drake, but another utilization of the Rise ultimate to set up the flank allows Unicorns to find the fight, and they're looking to potentially find themselves the win.
It's only Odoamne. We talked about him being the second carry, but I don't think he's going to put the rest of this game on his back. White Knight turning and burning to shut him down. Unicorns of Love just preoccupied with knocking it all down, and it was a long 68-minute battle last time around, but the Unicorns have gotten revenge!
What a game, Pyra.
And what a way to end it. I don't know how many years I've been watching the Unicorns of Love videos, but they always make my heart beat way faster than I want it to.
And who'd have thought that Splyce versus Unicorns would give us some of the most entertaining games of the split? My God. UOL this time around finally able to close things out. They get themselves another win on the board. Now 3-8 on the heels of H2K.
I gotta tell you, man, this is the most exciting 3-8 team I've ever seen.
Oh, they certainly are. Exile needs to chill out, man, though.
Yeah, he's got to wait for his team to go in, but I mean,
oh my word.
Look, he cleaned up at the end, all is forgiven. And how about Samuel Fernandez Fort, dude?
Yes, came up big on the Tristana, did a lot of work, even sold his boots out at the very end to get himself that QSS.
A real AD carry.
Oh man, Unicorns of Love, what a fun team to watch. This is why so many people fell in love with them last year.
Yeah.
They were that rundown mid style. Now they're all about the fight all the time.
Yeah, they ran down every lane in the jungle to boot. So these guys have found a few more avenues for that aggression, and well played from them. Hey, you know, I picked Splyce at the beginning with my predictions. I'm happy to be wrong. That was one hell of a game.
Oh, such a great game. Got to give an honorable mention to Xerxes and Odo. Felt like that they performed extremely well this game. Very entertaining to watch. I felt like Xerxes had a huge impact in the jungle. Odoamne doing great stuff on the side lane, working very well with Xerxes as well. Niski, he struggled simply because of how hard he got camped. And even then, he landed some phenomenal shockwaves. I feel like we criticized these two carries, and will they be able to step up? And even though they lost, I felt like that we definitely saw good performances from them today.
Seriously, I think individual performance from the team that lost, better teamwork from the team that won, a lot of madness across the board.
Oh, yeah.
I think when you're throwing that into the mix, it is so difficult to be able to react in time. And I think Xerxes' time on the Unicorns really gave him the fortitude to kind of hang tough anyways,
Yeah.
and that's okay. I've seen this before, guys. I know what to do.
Yeah, he was born and raised in this kind of play style, but oh man, what a great game to watch.
Odo does it again, by the way. Like, this 1v2, he had help this time, but come on.
But he needed it, right? Like, there was a third one was on the way, just good utilization of the Zhonya's, of his skill usage to just buy enough time for the rest of his team to show up. And just overall, a very impressive performance from him.
There's a whole lot of highlight reels in this game. We're going to take a look at another one, that great flank. And you know, White Knight gets melted through here, but look at Samix on the backside. Gets exhausted, doesn't matter, keeps on firing these shots. The rest of the team tanking all the damage. Shockwave pulls into. You think it's over, right? No. Guess again.
Samix, he sees Niski out of position. He thinks, oh, well, to be fair to Niski, he's like, oh, we've won the fight. We got a great shockwave. We can just clean up. And then Samix just comes over the wall and he's like, nah, haha, I have cannon. I can kill all. And he successfully just does that. And then Exile there with the cleanup. And again, look at this utilization of the Rise ultimate to bring in the tanks to the back line. Allow them to get the engage off and just so successfully split Splyce apart. Orianna, when she doesn't have the flash, low mobility mid lane mage, it is very easy to lock down and shut down. And that is exactly what the Unicorns of Love did. But then again, Exile, right at the end, gets over aggressive.
Preventable deaths.
Potentially. I'll
you know,
give him
it's-
that final one. The team
Yeah.
still end up winning. He baits them into overextending.
That's exactly what he was doing, because you know that he's going to go in no matter what. He thinks he's confident enough, but the rest of the team's at the back. That's all for us here. For more on Unicorns Win, we're going to throw it over to Law and hear from their AD carry.
Thank you very much, Pyra. Indeed, I'm standing here with Samux after their first win of the week against Splyce. How are you feeling today about this victory?
I'm feeling really happy because, yeah, we're showing improvement every week. So, yeah, I'm really happy about the win.
Yeah, we talked to Cole last week about that, and I want to have your opinion as one of the last remaining members of the last year's UOL. You had some struggle. What did you guys work on to make the kids successful this week?
I mean, I think we are struggling a bit this split, but I think we're improving a lot these weeks in our macro and our late game team fights and all of this, which is what we are struggling the most. So yeah, I think we're improving on this.
And what are your hopes for the rest of the splits at the moment?
I mean, we hope to reach playoffs. It's getting harder and harder, but I think we can do it.
Okay. And you had a lot of support from the UOL fans all over the studio, everywhere. So is there anything you would like to say to them?
Oh, thank you for staying with us even in the hard times. You guys are great.
Well, thank you very much, Samux. And thank you very much, guys. We're going to send it over to break. And after that, it's going to be Roccat versus G2. Don't go anywhere.
I don't know if he's going to be able to do it on this game plan, but maybe he can. Looking for Cold. That's a lot of damage. He's getting the shield on. And, oh, he